gunpowder?
How's everybody doing this morning? One of the more effective ways of announcing a musket demonstration is usually to start by firing the musket. Tends to be a good way to get people's attention. If you don't care for loud noises, you may wish to cover your ears, as this can be a little bit on the loud side. Say, peace! Hey, aye! To you one of the English soldiers here in Jamestown. What we're going to be talking about for the next few minutes is the matchlock musket, which is the primary weapon for the soldiers here in Jamestown. All right, it's called a matchlock because it requires a burning piece of rope called match. It's a hemp rope that's been boiled in a gunpowder solution, which makes it burn nice and hot, keeps it burning slow and steady. This is what ignites my gunpowder. Without this burning rope, I cannot fire this weapon. It's a very simple operating system. All the trigger does is swing that curved arm called a serpentine. And all the serpentine does is hang on to one of those burning ends of slow match so that when you squeeze the trigger, it sticks burning rope into gunpowder. It's very crude, very simple. Generally speaking, very reliable, because just about every time you stick burning rope into gunpowder, it's going to go bang. There's just so little going on there, there's not much to go wrong. Now, in the hands of a trained musketeer, a full musket like this one is going to have an effective range of about 100 yards, which basically means up to a football field away. I am expected to hit who I am aiming at most of the time. At that distance, I do not necessarily know what part of you I'm going to hit, nor do I particularly care, as this is a weapon intended for dealing with both heavy infantry and cavalry on the European battlefield, which means it's got to be able to take down a man wearing plate armor. It's got to be able to take down a cavalry horse. And in order to do so, this weapon fires a 75 caliber musket ball. It's a 3/4 inch, 1/12 of a pound of lead, traveling on average between 800 and 1,000 feet per second, just shy of the speed of sound. The bottom line is this will take out a horse. If I were to shoot you with something that could drop a horse, does it really matter what part of you I hit?
No.
Not so much. And if I was aiming for your head and it hit you in the hip instead, was it a real accurate shot?
No.
Did it work?
Yes.
Yeah, you're done shooting back. And that's really all I'm worried about. So it's an effective weapon without being precise. Now, trained musketeer is also expected to be able to load and fire his weapon at least twice in a minute, 2 aimed shots a minute, which is not a real high rate of fire, which is why this is very much a teamwork-oriented weapon. You want to go out with a large group of people so that you can take turns firing at the enemy and protect each other as you're reloading. Now, the ammunition for reloading is carried here in the bandolier. We're going to go through the loading process once without gunpowder to talk about how everything works. Then we'll load it up and fire it again. Now, the first thing you're going to do is prime the pan at the rear of the weapon. Priming powder is carried in the flask. You're going to use a little bit of that powder to fill the pan. Close the pan cover so the powder stays put. Make sure there's no excess powder outside of the pan that could cause the weapon to go off early. Cast it about. Each one of these little wooden bottles called chargers carries 1 shot's worth of gunpowder, measured out ahead of time so I don't have to stop and measure on the battlefield. Just pop the top off, dump that measured amount of powder down the barrel. Just draw a musket ball from the pouch on the hip, put that in on top of the powder, use a scouring stick to push that tight-fitting lead ball down the barrel, seat it tightly against the gunpowder, return the scouring stick, recover the weapon, make sure the match is burning nice and hot, clamp it into the serpentine, check it on the pan cover to make sure it'll hit the right spot, then open the pan, exposing the powder, aim the weapon, and squeeze the trigger, lowering the match into the pan. The priming powder flashes, the flash goes through a small hole called a vent, sets off the main charge, and sends the ball on its way. Got all that?
Yes. A little bit.
A little bit of gunpowder in the back, more gunpowder in a bullet, down the barrel, stick burning rope in.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward, right? Now, for our demonstrations today, rather than carrying powder in the chargers and priming flask, as they would have done We are now using paper cartridges. Same idea, same measured amount of powder, just a little bit different container. Loading process works the same way with a little bit of powder in the pan. The rest of the powder down the barrel. I will not be using a musket ball today, since obviously a bullet would be a little hazardous in a museum environment. That's one of the advantages for us using that paper cartridge.